but I have no real ambitions except to just to do it routinely and get better and better at it. It serves the purpose really of self-esteem, you know, because I believe like in the Abraham Maslow's pyramid of needs, you know, it starts with like the physiological needs and all that, but I even think sometimes that self-esteem is the first primordial need, because why would I feed and clothe myself if I didn't love myself? And I'm really like, I've thought a lot about utilitarianism and its doctrine, and how basically it was a sort of aristocratic, I mean, who were the utilitarians? That's what, you know, they were lawmen, and I think, you know, what about the peasant that wasn't educated, that lived in, can you say the peasant lived in the same utilitarian world? Was that utilitarianism describing everybody's experience, human experience, universally? So I think that whole idea of what is useful, you know, you got to think, I believe that it comes down to the individual. So what's useful for me, I can't apply that to everybody. I can't decide what your self-interests are, what your interests are for you. I can only decide what mine are. So to me, yes, I'm making a commodity, an art object, but I'm not expressing a doctrine, and I'm not expressing emotions. I don't believe in the myth of the artist as like this automaton that just merely reproduces automatically what he's feeling, and that these feelings are grandiose and sublime and all that. The sublime to me was a very short period of time in the history of art where there was the sublime. But I mean, we've gone way past that with sensationalism and everything. And magical realism, it's not the sublime. You can't, it's not just the beautiful and the sublime. Like, it's aesthetics, of the discourse of aesthetics has gotten quite complex. So as an artist, I believe I should educate myself as to what is going on in general in art theory, art history, discourse, also critical theory and stuff, like where you have Foucault and all those guys, and all the big names that people love to drop. That's just a way of informing my practice. Really, it's an individualist, egoistic thing, you know, where I just want to be the best I can be at what I do. I don't care really what other people think, although I love art critics, real down to earth, like true, or they can be abstract, theoretical madmen. But I love to have critics, and I love to have an audience, and that's what I do this for. I make music also. I dabble in several arts, started making short films, and that's it. Writing without writing essentially is an act, a physical act with the hand that resembles writing, that has a lot of the elements in writing, that has every single element neuromuscular in the system, neuromuscular and psychomotor system. It's the same as writing, except that it's more intuitive and improvised. So it's kind of a jazz of, like, jazz hands. But so that's it. I mean, I'm really getting down to that, the act of marking something down, which, I mean, ages ago, we're talking millennia, eons ago, humans used to carve on like bones, like a femur or something from an animal, and they would make scratches, like marks, and they were actually describing like something that was going on in almost a cosmological, cosmic, like the movements of the changes in the moon and everything, and so that you can actually look at this as a record of that period of time where the moon and the stars and that whole astrological, not in a mystical sense, but what was going on in the stars and in that, the tribe and in that society, you know. So there's that ancient accountancy, that the tables marking the income, you know, input output, like how much the business language, you know, like writing comes from that accountancy, that tabulation of like, this is our resources, this is how much we're making it for each product. So that's why I get into the mathematical writing, because essentially writing came from this numeral, just these, like, you know, it's like when you make like one, like this is the essence of writing, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, 1 buffalo, 2 buffalo, 3 buffalo, 4 buffalo, 5. Like, that's what writing essentially is. And that, you're not expressing an emotion. You can't say and say, oh, that guy must have been feeling like kind of down about that X number cow that he had to sacrifice, you know. Like, you really, like, I think you can't do a behavioral, like, profile like the CIA would or FBI would do, you know, and be like, well, essentially he was middle-aged, had brown hair, worked a job at the grocery store of the time, a market of sorts in South Central, you know, like, screw that. Those are just numbers. Anybody could have done that. It could have just been scratches that were made because he was like a dartboard or something, or they threw rocks at it and it made scratches. He's not expressing anything. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just making marks, you know. And that there's a need, I think, of the body to do that as a ritualistic, repetitive action of passing time and documenting, chronicling that passage of a time somehow in, like, Wittgenstein would call, like, a private language, you know. So that has meaning to me in a sense, but it does transcend meaning altogether, because I mean, I'm just making marks, and I know that for as an ordinary everyday routine thing that it is, it's existential, because it helps me cope with the passage of time. And so to me, if you want to really get to the extreme of this, what I'm trying to say is the fundamental thing is that really, as a documenting and passing of time, an action, a repetitive action, which every time you make another painting, so it becomes serial as a form of painting, because this is a series of painting that's been ongoing since the summer of 2007. And what I was going to say is that also fundamentally it's existential, it's repetitive. Essentially that existential repetitive action, see, is no different to me than what I would be doing. This is an unfinished work, but just to give you an idea of a Vanitas Memento Mori still life painting. See, that still life comes from that same thing, I believe. The Vanitas is the vanity of vanities, you know, Ecclesiastes, who said that, you know, the vanity of vanities, and the Memento Mori had reminders of death, right? So a candle, and like I only used a few elements, like a books, little statuette over here. So to me, what I'm doing, say, in one of these paintings, or this is actually a multimedia, little scratches, that improvised writing, which is, I do it every day, and I've been doing it all summer and all until this winter. Well, it's the same thing as a still life, because those to me represent the passage of time, you know. They are marks, one after the other, or because I mean, when you have one line, I mean, it's a movement through time, you know. So to me, because I've been practicing Feldenkrais for a year now, which is about awareness of the body in movement. And you always have, when you have movement, you have the element of time. I mean, I don't quite know exactly by heart what the mathematical formula is for motion, you know, or like in physics, like when you get down to things like acceleration and you know, and even in the neurophysiology and in motricity, how the signal gets sent to my muscle. But as I write, or as I hold my cigarette or move it to my lips, there's the agonistic muscle, movements and antagonistic, and that's what the delta log normal not function but the formula is. I don't